You have 10 minutes.
This debate happens in the real world. The context is in Malaysia today. And while Sharif might be highly optimistic of the new government, I always believe that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. When AUKU was first introduced, it was for a very noble reason. It's to ensure that fellow Malays especially went back to classes and focused on their studies, not on politics. But as time passes by, governments change, attitudes change, laws change with it as well, and it has been consistently been abused. It is very ironic that the side which says that we are looking at the empowered rakyat, the Malaysia Baru rakyat, which can differentiate between right and wrong, who can speak up against the government, yet they are the ones who say that this rakyat cannot differentiate between what's right and wrong, between what's disseminated online. I firmly believe, ladies and gentlemen, that even if there are lies spread out there, that all of you in this room will have the power to decipher between what's right and wrong. Because even if it is wrong and blatantly wrong, the risk of allowing any government to exploit vulnerabilities, partial truth, is a cost which we are never willing to take, even if we are the best government ever. I have two questions to ask in this debate. The first is why you should never trust a government. It's quite ironic. Second, even if we take propositions, best case scenario, that these are genuine lies, there's not even partial truths or partial lies, genuine lies, why it's still harmful for Malaysian democracy? To the first, let's deal with the model. They said, we want to make amendments. Well, I like to say, even with the best of amendments, the law in and of itself is bad. Let's look at the amendments. One, they said they will set up a council which will arbitrate between what's right and what's wrong. Why is that bad, ladies and gentlemen? One, the council is selected and decided by the ruling government. Previously, we set up the MC Council, which decided what is Akta, Sakit, Hati. Muka Najib Badut, Akta, Sakit, Hati. The government decides and arbitrates over what's right and what's wrong. What is the comparison on our side? We have greater certainty on what's right and what's wrong. One, we allow judges to decide in comparison to arbiters of the truth. They are officially setting up the Ministry of the Truth to decide you are right and you are wrong. There are no half-truths in between. You will be taken action and one isn't. So I believe it's much better on our side. The second, I also believe it's much better to allow citizenry, the people on the ground, to make that decision. Because all the points mentioned by my teammate were not engaged. What's false today can be true 10 years down the road. They use flimsy examples from India and Sri Lanka. I like to believe Malaysia is not like India and Sri Lanka. We've never had the Anti-Fake News Act. We've never had killings like that. Up until 1969, we've never had it before. What is the Malaysian context here today? The Malaysian context is the Wang Kalian murder scandal, where hundreds of people were murdered, human trafficking, while it was not true 2 years ago, but because of investigative journalists from NST who were passionate in pursuing the truth, 2 years after, what's false before became the truth today. How does their policy disrupt investigative journalists and the media from reporting it? Because the media, even if they post about the fake, even if they post about something which is uncertain, they will be taken action upon. That's why Malaysia Kini objected to it. That's why even the Star objected to it. Because they know that in the end, the truth is inherently subjective. And if they want to talk about people dying, they give international examples, I give Malaysian examples which happen within Malaysia itself. Two, the ones who arbitrate over the truth is often the government, especially when government can exert pressure over what's right and wrong. Let's look at what happened in the last 2 parliamentary sittings. The government stated that what is not authorized news on 1MDB is considered as fake news. And the council, which is appointed and selected by the government, takes cues from the minister who said that, especially when we're dealing with something which is very subjective. For an example, a partial truth, where I might say that corruption happens and the person steals the money, but instead of the person stealing 1 billion, I said 500 million. I can be charged under the Fake News Act because according to the Act, partial truths and partial false are also wrong, something which they did not engage with. We think when there's a very ambiguous line, it's better for us to earn the side of caution and allow people to decide. They might say, but Syaddiq, never mind, calm down. Go to the court lah, bro. That is not the problem. The problem is when you want to go to the court, when one person is dragged by the hand of justice, millions of other Malaysians will no longer take the risk of sharing the news, of talking about it. Malaysia Kini, the Star, NST, will never report about it because they fear being shut down. These are consequences which are too big to deal with. So let's balance. Debate is always about the comparative, right? Let's take their best case scenario, where these are genuine lies, memang fitnah. How do we deal with that? One, we already see technological advancement dealing with the spread of fake news. We see Facebook, Twitter and the rest already signaling ones which can be trusted and ones which cannot. Two, usually who uses fake news is the government. The only case in Malaysia where the fake news law was used was by the police, a government institution. What does this mean? The government has a powerful resource to respond. They have the media, they have Astrawani, they have NST, they have the Star, they have the rest. They have paid cyber troopers, God knows how many. We have so much power to respond.
Banyak, bro.
But who determines on our side? You want to defend the small guy? I want to defend the small guy. The whistleblower who doesn't have government institutions, who do not have the funding and network. What about them? When the truth is decided by the government, these are the people who will be suppressing the most. And while you say, trust the government, trust the government, trust the government, I don't. Because I believe that the success of the law should stand on its own footing. The law should not be determined on who governs or who is elected, because that is the tyranny of a democracy. This might be a good government, but in 5 to 10 years' time, we might change. I might be the Najib Razak, Nauzubillah bin Zalik. Things can change. Power corrupts. An ambiguous law, ladies and gentlemen, can be abused when governments change. Never take the risk. That's why I believe the people are the best arbiters in determining the truth. Yes.
Look, the Communications and Multimedia Act already says, to some extent, that you can't post news that is problematic or insightful. Will you also take that away and allow the rakyat to
Yes, take that away. I want to take Akta, Sakit, Hati away. I want to take MCMC Act away. I want to take so many things away, including Sedition Act, but that's for a different debate. But I'm definitely disagreeing with what exists in the current laws. Let's also look at one thing. In order for you to prove fake news, because I mean as a lawyer you have to talk about it, the burden, right? The ones who need to prove after that it is not fake, you need documentary evidence. Let's look at Malaysia today. Again, don't debate about Malaysia. Even in this new government, OSA is still in action, Official Secrets Act. You know, previously, last year only, the allegation which states that Shafi Abdullah was paid by PM Najib 9.5 million. We cannot provide documentary evidence to show that it is indeed true, and we were labeled as fake news. Today, documentary evidence came up because people who were intimidated were no longer intimidated, and the OSA was no longer used to hide information. We do not want any possibilities where power centralization exists at the moment, where the government can hide behind the veil of the OSA and existing laws where we need documentary evidence to rebut it. We think it's much better to earn the side of caution, to give power back to the hands of the people. So what is the comparison in this debate? Even if we have people spreading fitnah and lies, I trust our electorate to deal with it. I trust technological advancement, which we have already talked about, to deal with it. But most importantly, even if it is wrong, we will have multiple different narratives. Someone challenging it, someone agreeing to it. In their world, there will be a council which is unaccountable, which is not elected, selected by the government, who will arbitrate over what's right and what's wrong. It is one single narrative defining what's wrong and what's right. Unfortunately, we trust the Malaysian electorate. We want more narrative. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's ironic coming from a minister to say, never trust the government, because I believe in the people. I've seen how people change. I was a fan of NAjib Razak, and I see how they can change. Power lies in the people. And that's why I significantly oppose this motion. Thank you.
I think you got it. Thank you, YB Syed. Syaddiq, grossly overtimed, -1 mark for manner. Ladies and gentlemen,